Charlie Lindgren is off the injured reserve and should be ready to go Thursday night.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, I'm going to talk about options, scoring options for the Capitals if they don't go outside of the organization and make a big trade. And in today's episode, I talk about Pierrick Dubé, who is lighting it up for the Hershey Bears, a guy that would be a really great option if the Capitals are looking for scoring goals. He has done that handsomely down in Hershey. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We will talk about injury updates surrounding the Capitals, most notably Alex Ovechkin and Tom Wilson. But just to get it going here, the biggest news of all of the day, in my opinion, is that Charlie Lindgren, Chucky Sideburns, is now off the injured reserve. It looks like if, Spencer Carberry chooses so, that he could be in the game Thursday evening against the Kraken. To start the season, it seemed apparent that Darcy Kuemper was the number one in net for Washington. And why is that? Because of his 5-year deal, all the money that he paid him. He has the history of winning the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. So it's there. And, he has shown that he is an elite level goalie. Kuemper is a veteran that's been a winner in the NHL. And like I said, won a Stanley Cup. And at the time, he was revered as one of the best in the NHL. And ultimately, I still think he's right up there. But since Charlie Lindgren has faced that injury, the Caps have won just 2 of 6 games since Lindgren went down with an injury. And it's one of the luxuries that the Capitals have is that they have a plethora of different options in net. We have Darcy Kuemper and Charlie Lindgren. Scroll down from there, Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson. So there are a lot of elite level goalies within the Capitals organization on the big team down in Hershey with the Stingrays, not to mention in the various junior leagues as well. Lindgren suffered an upper body injury in the first couple minutes of the game to the Islanders. And I remember that game. That was one of the games where he tried to kind of walk it off to say, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. I got this. I got this. In respectability, I respect a guy that's not just willing to skate off the ice at a moment's notice. He did his due diligence to try to stay in the entire game, but he was too injured to stay in. And the Capitals have slid a little bit. And it's interesting, Charlie Lindgren this year versus Charlie Lindgren last year. If we can kind of rewind time a little bit, we remember that Charlie Lindgren played very well last December, was lights out, one of the best in the NHL, kind of slid a little bit after that. He has had more sustained winning this year, and that is what I like about Lindgren's game. Shepard and Kuemper have carried the bulk of the mail in Lindgren's absence. The Caps look forward to consistency that Charlie provides in net, and that's noticeable. And I think that, for one, Charlie does a really great job, but I also think that the players that play in front of him they don't have to worry if Charlie's going to stop it. 9 times out of 10, Charlie will make the save if it's a savable shot. So I think that the Capitals in general play more comfortably in front of Charlie Lindgren through injury and inconsistent play at time from Kemper. Lindgren made his most of his opportunities, and that earned him the number 1 netminder job. So taking a look at it, Kemper has had inconsistent patches this season. He's had some really great games. He's had some games that I'm sure he'd probably like to have back. But Charlie Lindgren has been that steady Eddie, to use a Craig Laughlin term, between the pipes on a night in, night out basis. Kemper and to a certain extent Shepherd have had their opportunity to seize the number 1 job, but haven't done that. And it's interesting to say Kemper in that equation because he was kind of the de facto number 1. But then all of a sudden, the Charlie Lindgren era happened, and everyone's like, I know that we're paying Kemper a lot of money, but this Charlie Lindgren guy is really good. And I talk about this in the show all the time. I don't really care who's between the pipes. I want the guy that is going to give the Capitals the best chance at winning the game. And a report, I really don't care who it is. So if it's Charlie Lindgren, if it's Hunter Shepherd or Darcy Kemper, put the guy between the pipes that is going to give the Capitals the best chance at winning. And at this season so far, it has been Charlie Lindgren. Charlie ranked 4th in goals saved above expected at 12.3, and his 0.043 rebounds per save ranked 2nd in the league. He also ranks 2nd in the league in save percent, 0.928 through 15 games this season. Charlie ranked 4th in goals save above expected. So he is definitely in the upper echelon of netminders within the National Hockey League. And that's something that this backup guy that doesn't have nearly the history or the pedigree of a Darcy Kemper has. If we remember his history, that he's had brief cups of coffee with a couple different teams in the NHL, but this was his first real opportunity to shine. And make no mistake about it, the Capitals signed Charlie Lindgren as this backup, a name that wasn't real recognizable around the National Hockey League unless you were an extreme hockey nerd. Charlie Lindgren, the good news is, was at practice today, and it appears as though he'll get the start Thursday against the Kraken. So exciting, as the Kraken are playing rather well this year. I know it's a team that's kind of a mixed bag. One moment they're playing poor, one minute they're playing really well. So right now, they're pretty hot. So that is what the Capitals will have to face. And the good thing about this break here is the Capitals are coming off a lot of games, a lot of back-to-back. So this is an excellent opportunity for the likes of a Charlie Lindgren to fully rest up, and then also attend practice and slowly ramp up. Sometimes these players, they just get thrust into action and it's out of the frying pan and into the fire. So it is advantageous for Charlie Lindgren and the Capitals and everyone on the team that is kind of nicked up a little bit right now to ease your way back in, but knowing that you have the time to get it right. You don't have to rush your way back. And I think that that is something that is going to help Charlie Lindgren out and the rest of the injured Capitals. The Capitals are looking to make up ground in the Metro Division. The games have greater implications the further we go in the season. And coming up here shortly on the All-Star break here, that is the measuring stick. There are various, measuring checkpoints throughout the season, the Thanksgiving break, the All-Star break, that kind of thing. And if we remember back to Thanksgiving, the Capitals were in 2nd place. They've slid a little bit, and that kind of coincides with Charlie Lindgren being injured. And it's kind of interesting and proof in the pudding that it's actually consistent with what we're talking about this evening in the podcast. So we're hoping that Charlie Lindgren can come back 100% and ready to help this team 100%. But, just taking a look at it again, it's interesting. You take a look at Darcy Kemper. And when I started talking about this, and if you're an everydayer of the show, I've spoke about this pretty much all season, is Charlie Lindgren the guy? Is he the number 1? And it's interesting. I hear from a lot of the different beat writers back then. They're like, no way. Are you crazy? I mean, Charlie's good, but I mean, he can't keep it going. Charlie's done that, and that's ultimately why he has earned that number one job. And that's, for me, what has me excited about what's going forward. We're seeing Patch ready kind of ramp it up. Ovechkin is scoring a bit more goals. John Carlson, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome. Is this the making of a superstorm? I guess it remains to be seen. All right, so coming up here after the break, I will talk about other injury updates on the Capitals, most notably Alex Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, and the like. I'll talk about that. Keep it locked. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get 150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's 150 bucks in bonus bets, win or lose. And let me tell you something, guys. If you're not that into betting, say you're watching a Commanders game, say you're watching a Ravens game or whatever game, and you're not that interested, open up the FanDuel app and put a little bit of money on the game. It makes watching the game that much more exciting. It's so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, like I talked about in the previous segment, this break for the Capitals couldn't have come at a better time. You take a look at Alex Ovechkin, he was nicked up. You take a look at Tom Wilson, kind of had his nose messed up. You take a look at Sonny Milano, who's ramping up. Same goes for TJ Oshie. Rasmus Sandin is still on the IR. And, it's interesting. He went from being ill to an upper body injury. So I'm not exactly quite sure what's going on there. But in any event, it does look like this save Rasmus Sandin is getting healthy and potentially could be a good to go, a great scenario for the Capitals Thursday evening. Wilson, who took Lex Lafleur's stick to the nose, is day to day. But I would imagine that he is probably going to be ready Thursday. I know that they talked about that in practice today, which is Tuesday. And the reason why I think he's going to be okay is that he went back into the game after getting kind of, it was weird. He kind of went in for a hit and Lafleur's stick hit him in the nose and he left. They put a bunch of gauze in there. He seemed like he was good to go. But then in the post-game presser, he was still kind of bleeding from there. So his official status, as this is being recorded on Tuesday, is day to day. But my belief is that by Thursday evening, he will be ready to go. Like I said, I wouldn't read too much into the Caps that don't play until Thursday and expect him to be full go. Rasmus Sandin's status changed from being ill to an upper body injury. I don't know, maybe he got an upper body injury when he was ill. And Alex Ovechkin, what's going on him with is a maintenance day. And it's being said out there that he honestly did not want to play in the All-Star game. And I think that, one of the things that I've speculated about this entire season is that potentially Alex Ovechkin could be facing an injury or has an injury right now, rather, that is maybe hampering his process in scoring goals and that he wants to take this time to rest up. He's not the young Alex Ovechkin from the Showboat days, with a big cowboy hat and the hockey stick that's on fire. This is an older Alex Ovechkin that I think is a little bit slower. I think that he is a little nicked up. I think that we're not going to know the extent of his injury. I don't think that he is so injured right now that he can't play, but I don't think that he is playing at 100% capacity. So this, Alex Ovechkin in particular, is a perfect thing this time off here. Oshie is trending on making his return soon, maybe even Thursday. And one of the things that we know about TJ Oshie is that if he doesn't find the back of the net, he competes at 100% every time that he plays. So he's a good playmaker. He gets involved. He has good hockey vision. I'm going to say he sees plays kind of in front of him that a lot of other players don't see. So TJ Oshie, healthy, I think, is going to help the Capitals. I'm not going to say 100% for sure he'll be in on Thursday, but it does appear as though it is heading in that direction. Sonny Milano shed his no contact jersey and should be game ready as pretty soon as well. So this team getting healthy, some questions about, the roster, being that they added Max Pacioretty. I know that Phillips is the healthy scratch. There are a lot of questions. Again, I would not be real surprised if we don't find out that Phillips gets put on the waiver wire after you see the return of Oshie and Sonny Milano to this team, that there's just not going to be enough spots out there. And, taking a look at Phillips, I think that he has done a pretty good job for the Capitals, pretty good, but not a great job. And the things that I don't like about him, and I don't want to seem this as a knock because this is nothing that he can control, is that he's a shorter fellow and that ultimately he can get pushed off the puck rather easily. And that was made evident. And I know that the reason that they signed him in the first place is that he's good at generating chances and he kind of lights up the analytical score sheet, but that doesn't translate necessarily to goals and assists. And ultimately, there are more viable options than Phillips on the ice. And that's why he's been scratched. And ultimately why I think that they are going to have to clear a roster spot. Sonny Milano for me as well is that he's been up and down. When he's really dialed in, he's a very dynamic, great player, but we don't always see that from Sonny Milano. And being that there is all this young talent, like I talked about in yesterday's show, like I'm going to talk about in the next segment here, is that there is plenty of options down in Hershey that if you are not going to bring it, there is better options down in Hershey. Am I going to say that, I'm going to talk about Dubé. Do I think that he is a better option than Sonny Milano? Perhaps. I talk about Ethan Frank. Is he a better option? Perhaps. Same thing goes for Scarboza, that there is really elite level talent down in Hershey, that the Capitals don't have to settle for second best if that is their perception of things. So I think that Sonny Milano is really going to have to bring it if he wants to maintain a spot on this team. Again, I am not discounting him as being done or anything like that. It's just that we've seen a little bit of a lackluster performance from Sonny Milano this year. There's been moments that he's been playing really well, but by and large, I think that he is going to have to show improvement if he is going to get a sweater on a night in and night out basis on the Capitals. It's just the way that it goes. All right, so coming up here after the break, one of the things I'm doing this week, being that the Capitals are not playing until Thursday, is highlighting some scoring talent that is down in Hershey. We hear that Brian McClellan has to go outside the organization and make this big acquisition, and that might happen. But if there is no options to be had or any trades to be had, there are plenty of options within the organization, the Capitals. And in this next segment, I'll talk about, is Pierrick Dubé, is he a good option for the Capitals? I'll talk about him coming up. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. That is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if, one of my significant family members or one of my kids got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from a life-saving medication they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illness, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code LOCKED ON to get $20 off your order. Check it out today. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So in this, this week, what I'm doing is I'm highlighting talent in the Capitals organization, guys that can score goals if, in fact, Brian McClellan does not find a viable option outside of the organization to address that top 6 scoring forward that he's been talking about since, well, pretty much the end of last season. So in this episode, or in this particular segment here, I'm going to talk about Pierrick Dubé, one elite level player in the Hershey Bears and in the AHL. In the last 10 games, he has 6 goals and 2 assists. He's a right wing. Ultimately, I'm sure that he could play the center position, but where his native position is right wing. This year, 36 games, 19 goals, 6 assists. He is ranked 3rd in the AHL in goals. Number 1, 2, 3 in the entire AHL in goals. 36 games, 19 goals already, and 6 assists. Quite impressive. Last season, playing with the Laval Rocket, 16 goals, 16 assists in 44 games. A dynamic player within the Capitals organization, goal scoring fuel is what I'm going to call him. And why are the Capitals not getting, why are they not taking a longer look at him? We hear all the time, we need scoring goals, 5-on-5, and I think that, maybe that would rattle the cage a little bit of guys on the team. If you called up someone like a Dubé, maybe called up someone like an Ethan Frank, something like that. But hey, if the Capitals struggle in this next stretch, and we've talked about this, Spencer Carberry's talked about it as much. If the Capitals struggle within this next stretch, it could put them out of reach of making it to the playoffs. Right now, it's not out of reach. They're still in that wild card area there that they could potentially make it, but we don't want to eke our ways into victory. I would like the Capitals to rise above wild card if at all possible. So they're going to need elite level goal scoring. They have that from Dylan Strome, from Tom Wilson. Alex Ovechkin is turning it on. Anthony Mantha has kind of cooled off a little bit, still getting involved, making some great plays, but not finding the back of the net quite at the same clip that he was not so long ago. But the Capitals have him on the cheap. Dubé's salary is $870,000 and his cap hit is $870,000 for the 23-24 season. His salary is comprised of $95,000 in signing bonuses and $775,000 in base salary. He's a 23-year-old right wing who was born on January 7th, 2001. He has signed a 1 contract worth total value of $1,900,000. He will be an RFA at the end of the 24-25 season when he turns 24. This is via cap friendly. He signed an entry level contract. So, in terms of what big name Capitals players make, why mortgage the farm? Why give up these big players that we don't want to part with when potentially we have the talent right down in Hershey, not too far away? And I know what you're going to say, Dan, that's the AHL. It's not the AHL. Razor fine margin. There's many players that march their way right up from the AHL into the NHL and have done really great things. Just kind of think about all the players just on the Capitals that have played on the Bears that went on to play with the Capitals and have had really great careers. There's countless different players there. But taking a look here, Dubé's a 5'9", 172 right-hander, was an undrafted free agent prospect. The 22-year-old forward had 16 goals and 32 points in 44 AHL contests with the Rocket in 22-23. Dubé played for France in the B division. He scored 9 points in 5 games. He was voted as the U20 World Junior Champion, D1B Best Forward, and helped France win a silver medal. An integral, huge piece. Dubé was impressive D for France and had the best face-off percentage throughout the tournament at 76.19%. Could the Capitals use someone like Dubé on this team? You better believe it. And that's what I'm talking about. All hope is not lost. If Brian McClellan does not find a trade partner for like a Kuznetsov or, something like that, then there is options that at least deserve a look. The thing that's a little bit unfortunate when I look at this is I'm afraid that they won't try those options. Say if the Capitals do, for whatever reason, spiral, not saying they're going to, in the event that they do, that they won't try these players until it's too late. It'll be one of the things where the Capitals are out of it. So why not call up some of these guys that are down in Hershey, and do that? When right now, if they struggle here within the next stretch here, I would say call them up. And, it's going to depend on what player that is that's going to come out of the lineup. Like I talked about yesterday, that could be Kuznetsov. That could be who's ever struggling at that given time. That the Capitals do not need to settle for second best. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful, and I have you guys to thank. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.